I'm about 3 weeks into homeschooling, and this year by far has been the hardest homeschool year already. And so in this video, I want to explore that a little bit. So it's actually going to be divided into 2 parts. Please check the timestamps down below. The first one, I'm going to talk about how homeschooling is different post-pandemic. I've been homeschooling for 13 plus years. It's changed so drastically. The second half, I'm going to talk about screen time, technology, that kind of stuff, and the impact it has made on our youth. I am actually at the point where I am going to say that like our entire generation, our youth, they're antisocial. And I'm going to talk about that because the data is just, it's pouring out and people are starting to pay attention. Homeschooling, when I started, I resigned from the public school system because I was so interested in homeschooling my kids. It was about community. It was about family values. It was about sharing curriculum with other people. It was about taking on teaching responsibilities and allowing other people to teach my kids. It was about listening to the older women talk about parenting and, you know, giving advice and leaning into them and having mentors. And just, it was about community, like-minded community. It wasn't about sticking my kids in a home and just isolating them from the world. Now, that does happen, but it wasn't that. It was about finding like-minded community to raise my kids in that community that I felt comfortable in, and family values first. It's not like that anymore. What I'm seeing post-pandemic is people recognized that there was a market now for homeschooling. Now, in the state of Florida, we have something very, very unique, and everybody is watching this. And so if you're not in the state of Florida, please pay attention, because you are probably looking at your future. And I'm not joking. We have a scholarship in the state of Florida. We have 2, one for unique abilities and one that is pretty much for anybody who wants it. And they will give us up to $9,000, $10,000, $7,000. They give us the money. It rolls over. Money does not become an issue now when it comes to homeschooling. So you can pay for the priciest curriculum, priciest tutor, anything you want at your fingertips. There is data being gathered. We're 3 years into the PEP program right now, and there's so much data, testing scores, etc. They're going to make charts and graphs and data, and it's going to be released after the 5-year mark. FSU actually has the contract, and everyone is going to be seeing if providing funds for students to be home educated helps them improve their test scores and education. And I wouldn't be surprised if other states pick this up pretty quickly. I know some others do something similar to Florida, but Florida, the way that it's set up, is very unique. We have, in my county alone, 30,000 homeschoolers. Like, that's a lot. The state of Florida has over 100,000. And one of the things that has come along with this is so many different opportunities, different groups, nonprofits, there's micro schools and pod schools and organizations. Teachers are leaving their teaching career to start an educational program inside their home. Everything is very, I almost feel like sometimes it gets a little sterile because it's about education. You know, this one place, for example, I'm just making this up, right? It's an example. I don't even know of a place that does this, but I'm sure it exists. A science community that supplies lots of different science opportunities. They have all the microscopes and this and that and this and that. And I'm sure there's a place like this, but they have classes for homeschoolers to enroll in. And they take the scholarship money and they have camps and all the things, and everything is education based. It's not about family values. It's not about community. It's about giving them the best education possible, but that family value and community is not there. And it's happening all over the place. It's like when you enroll your kid in a dance class or a gymnastics class or a sports. I mean, I know you feel like you live there, but is it truly community? Are you praying with each other? Are you leaning into each other for advice, parenting advice? Doesn't really happen too often at a dance recital, but we're seeing that happening in the education realm, like math and science and English and writing, and there is just so many opportunities. Some of that is great. Like, for example, I mean, when I started homeschooling my kids, sports was not an option. If there was a soccer, it was put on by a group of kids that like homeschooling, and they would kick the ball around. It wasn't competitive at all. It was just kind of fun and games. But now, my kids actually do track and field and cross country, and they're competing with public schools. It's amazing that they have this opportunity to compete against, there's no limits on who they compete against. So that's great. That is a great thing. But it can be really overwhelming if you don't have that community. The teacher that is charged of the cross country, She is my personal workout coach. I consider her that. I go to her classes at the gym, and she is training my kids with cross country, and I taught her kids. Like, her daughter got married, it was like a big deal. Like, you know, it's crazy. This is what, to me, it feels more like a community. I know that our director at our home education program, our homeschool community, she graduated her kids from homeschooling before the pandemic even set in. There have been times in the past with this community where we have prayed together, prayed for each other. Somebody gets cancer, we're bringing them meals, we're visiting them, we're calling them. I know that when I was in the hospital and we found out that she had Down syndrome, the director was actually by my side with me for the entire day after Naomi was born, making sure that I was like mentally stable, which I really wasn't, to be honest. But the point is, that's what a community is for. You don't see your kid's dance teacher show up by your bed when you're in the hospital too often. That's what homeschooling is. It's about family values and like-minded community coming together to raise children. Everything now feels so sterile and so impersonal. I've even heard stories now. I talk to people across the state of Florida because I do homeschool evaluations and consultations. I also do consultations worldwide, and I talk to people, you know, from Canada and from the US, different states, and I hear their input, and I see such a difference. But I even heard of a home education program, you know, it was a drop-off only. They had there's crime. There was actual crime where police were called at a home education program. Guys, that shouldn't happen in a community, because if something goes wrong before it even gets to that level, there has already been intervention with the community. Like, that's how it is. Like, there's been things in my life that my kids have done and other kids have done, and there's intervention with the parents. That's what a community is. Now, a lot of people say, like, that belongs in the church or that belongs in your faith-based. You know, honestly, like, I get it. But nowadays, I see churches happening one time a week. That's not a community, guys. But I do see, on the other hand, as a good thing, and I hope a lot of you guys are in this situation where in your church group, you have a homeschool group that is birthed out of that. That's almost like the perfect situation. And if you guys live close together, oh, that's even better. So that would be like the ideal situation, kind of like a little kibbutz or something like that, or it would be a co-op, right? That would be the technical definition of what a co-op is, right? Anyway, I think you get my point. Things are more sterile. Now, like, I have fought so hard in my whole year, my whole span of homeschooling my kids, to keep it very community centered. And, you know, wherever my kids' friends are, I'm going to be involved. And I try to keep it, you know, within reach. Last year, I did kind of dip into some co-ops, and it felt very sterile. This year, I have managed to keep them siloed, and that sounds like a horrible word to use, but I've kept them within. I have 3 different communities that we are a part of, and they all are very like-minded. And I don't know, it is what it is, but some are conflicting with each other, and I think that's why it's a little bit hard. But that also leads into the fact that there is so much to do. There's so much to do and so many options out there, and it is completely overwhelming. But why are there so many options out there? This is where I kind of want to go into the whole technology world of things. You know, I get it, okay? Our kids come home from a long day. The first thing they do is want to get on the computers with their friends. Okay, when I was a kid, I come home from a long day, I want to get on the phone with my friends. Or I want to go play music in my room and listen to my music and sing and just kind of zone out, maybe color a little bit. You know, you want to be alone, you want to de-stress. I did the same thing. Now, you know, a lot of them just want to get on the computers and de-stress. Yeah, I get on my phone and de-stress too. There is some good in that. But things are moving so fast, and there's so much information in the palm of their hand or in the screen right in front of them. They can get it like I'm like talking to the choir here, you guys get it. But here's the thing, their brain has not been able to develop to the capacity that it needs to because of all this fast input, because of all this screen time that is being allowed. That's something to consider. The fact that they have access to the world. You can put like limits and boundaries and all these things to protect your kids, which is great. But if they want to really get a hold of something, they will. Here's like a little bit analogy that I kind of thought of a little bit before I started doing this video. Like, we were all like rebellious, right? We had access to stuff, not as much access as our kids, okay? So one of the things that I did when I was a kid, I had acquired an Ozzy Osbourne cassette tape, okay? My mom did not like Ozzy Osbourne. She was very anti his music. I was not allowed to listen to it. But I acquired this cassette tape. I was like super rebel, okay? Super rebel. And I got the cassette tape, and I had managed to make a hole in the bottom of my bed and like hide it on one of the wood slates that went across. So whenever I wanted to listen to it, I would sneak under my bed, grab the cassette tape. There's more access to more things. But we as parents don't even understand how to use some of those things or how to find it. And they can hide it so well and so easily. And to be honest, for me and my husband, I almost feel like we're a little bit like, I don't even know what the term is to use, but it's like we're on edge. Are they on their computers? Are they on the computer? Are they on the computer? And what exactly are they doing? It really causes a lot of stress for me. And for my husband, especially since our kids are getting a lot smarter. I've been trying to trick my son into thinking that I'm very tech savvy and I knew more than him. But it's not easy, and it's very stressful. But it's also stressful for them. And we have to be mindful and have to lay limits and have to watch out. This generation is like always online. That's like their go-to. They have about 1 million hobbies online. Like back in the day, you know, we listened to our Walkman, we went outside, we rode our bikes, we played in the street, we colored. It's like you can name all these different hobbies that required them to like get up and move and do the things. Well, now everything is like the same hobbies are like all on the screen, and they've created avatars in this fantasy world, and they've put on masks, and it's so, the data is coming out that it's so bad for them. And I know that me personally, one of the things that I've been praying more than anything in the world is that this generation recognizes the harm that they have done growing up, and that when their parents, they are putting limitations and more mindful and cutting it out. And you know what, in a way, I kind of hope they're kind of mad at us, at my generation, for allowing them to do it so much. I really do. Yes, there's good things about technology and you can use it for good. I get it. There are online courses and education and all these things, but there is also nothing more valuable than physically doing things with this space that we have, three-dimensional space that we have around us. Same is true for community, because they built a community online. But there is such a difference between giving somebody eye contact in person and being around them than being online with them. You know, we can always go back to the research with babies and how moms, when they look into the eyes of their babies, there's that connection and there's that security that the child has. But if a baby can't, you know, see their mother's eyes, and they're constantly ignored because their mom's looking at the cell phone or their mom is absent, there is that lack of stability in the child, in the baby. And that research has been done for years, and we have seen the result of that. But now that's happening in good, solid households and families. It's just technology has gotten in the way. And so how does this pertain to us having such a difficult year? I think, honestly, where I am as a parent, just trying to find things for my kids to do, because their brains are moving so fast, but finding things within their community. But then the rest of the community is also online. But the rest of the community is also striving to find things for their kids to do. And people in general are just not connecting with people one-on-one. Like, who has a best friend anymore? I'm looking around and I think maybe in general, I have found myself, and maybe it's because I had little kids and I was focused on them or whatever, but I'm looking around myself and going, who is my close friend? I've had some friends that I've never met, or maybe met once or twice, and they become my best friends through Marco Polo, or best friends through phone calls, and I've never seen them because they live in another state. And that's happened before with me. The person I worked for lived in another state. The connection's not there, and the community is not there face to face. It hasn't been till recently until I've started connecting more with my community this year, which is something that's beautiful about our director at our homeschool community, is that she has really been focused on bringing us back to what homeschool originally was. She's been so focused on that, where now I'm looking at the people around me And I'm going, where have we all been? I've missed you guys. And then we look at our kids and they're like all over the place with technology and doing all these things. And we're all just trying to, I don't know, I feel like we're all just trying to pick up the pieces and trying to just figure out how not to make this so hard. We're trying to rebuild a community. We are. And yeah, I'm speechless at this point. But it's been really hard. Like I said, this year particularly, it's hard because we're in that rebuilding stage and there's a lot of pushback. I think that's why it's so hard. Yeah, it has nothing to do with curriculum either. But what I do have is I do have my best friend teaching my son math. And I love that so much. I love that so much. We're picking up the pieces. Oh my gosh, I didn't think I was going to get a little teary-eyed. But anyway, it's a thought to put out there. And some of the most valuable people are right there in your own community. So reach out to them. You don't need someone who has a doctorate in education to teach your kids. Sometimes our best friend can do a better job. Let me know what you guys think. And I'm going to put a video over here that talks a little bit about just maybe some possibly controversial things. I don't know. Maybe it's interesting to you. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in our next video. Bye.